Welcome to another episode of Mike's Money Picks. Today on the podcast, we're going to be breaking down the 2025 Mexico Open at Vidanta. We are back talking PGA Tour golf this week. And honestly, I really do like this tournament. Like, I'm a fan of it. Annually, this is a tournament where the field ends up being generally pretty weak. There is like a dearth of content this week because a lot of people look to take this week off. But I happen to really enjoy this golf course. And I think there's some really good angles that we can play this week and use it to make some money. So whether you are playing DFS, betting, one and done, player props, round by round, anything like that, we've got you covered here in this episode. We're going to, in 30 minutes or less, break down everything you need to know about the 2025 Mexico Open. And that's generally what we've done for every tournament so far this season. 30 minutes or less, everything you need to know. There is no more comprehensive preview that you can get in 30 minutes or less than this one right here. Now, we did take a week off last week. We did not have a preview for the Genesis Invitational. Super Bowl Sunday, I just started feeling sick and I'd had some kind of stomach bug and just I felt awful. Like, I didn't feel like doing anything Sunday night, Monday, Tuesday. So I kind of didn't. And so the Genesis Invitational was not one of my best DFS weeks of the year. I was kind of playing the angle that Scotty and Rory were just significantly better than everybody else in the field, and that the next tier of golfer has been a supreme disappointment so far this season, was going to continue to be a supreme disappointment. And that next tier was not a disappointment because Ludwig Oberg won from that little tier of golfer. So not a great week for me, Genesis Invitational. However, the Phoenix Open was a great week. We had Thomas Dietrich in our DFS lineups, had each way on Thomas Dietrich to win the tournament. So really solid outcome for us that week at Waste Management, and hoping to do the same here at the Mexico Open. So hopefully, if you guys enjoyed the content for the Waste Management, won some money, hopefully we can do the same for you guys here this week. As always, make sure you're subscribed to the channel that we can be with us for the rest of our golf and college basketball content the rest of the season, as well as just you'll know when all the new episodes drop. But without further ado, let's go ahead and dive in. Let's start talking about the Mexico Open. So the Mexico Open is being played at the Vidanta Vallarta golf course in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. This is just, in my opinion, an absolutely gorgeous golf course, right? Like, if you're watching it on TV this weekend, it is going to pop off the screen. It is going to present really well on your TV screen. And I think that it is actually somewhat of a unique test from what we see in the PGA Tour week in and week out. Let's talk about why. So the Vidanta Vallarta is a very long golf course. It is a par 71. It measures out at about 7,500 yards. And in terms of like yardage per par, that's one of the longest ratios on the PGA Tour. Most courses that are above 7,400 yards are par 72s. This one is a par 71. And it still has your normal 4 par 5s, but it has an additional par 3. So really, if that par 3 were a par 4, like, we're talking about this being one of the longest courses on all the PGA Tour. Kind of like a Torrey Pines, or like last year, the PGA Championship with Valhalla, Quail Hollow, like other long courses, right? But this is a unique long course. This is the easiest of all the long courses that are played on the PGA Tour. So what you're going to see this week is, really, with this being a golf course that is in Puerto Vallarta, it is designed as a resort course. It is designed for, golfers of all levels to go on their vacations where they're in tropical Mexico and have an enjoyable, fun round of golf, right? So it is not a golf course that is, looking to be super difficult or looking to kind of play super tricky or super intricate. What you see at Vidanta is the fairways are pretty darn wide. They're not the widest on the PGA Tour, but they're wider than average. And the landing zones are significantly wider than average. As long as you can keep out of the water off the tee, the rough is not a very significant hazard here at Vidanta. Last year in the final round, Jake Knapp, in his win, he was not very effective in finding fairways, but because the rough was such a minimal hazard, he was still able to hit greens. He was still able to make the putts that he needed to in order to hold off Sammy Valmackey and the rest of the pack in order to come through with that win. So really, this week, you're going to see with the length of the course and the lack of hazards, you are going to see guys swing driver virtually every tee box they have a chance to, just because there's nothing to deter you from swinging it. And you also want to be as close as possible for your approach shots, because this is still a pretty easy golf course when all is said and done. So you're going to want to be sticking your approach shots as close as possible, because you really need to be close to the pin to make some of these putts, right? And this is a week where there is a generally high green and regulation percentage. So I am not really going to be factoring in around the green play a whole lot this week at all, because if you're needing around the green play, if you're scrambling, you're not going to be winning this week. You are going to need to be hitting your drives pretty well. You are going to need to be hitting your approach shots really well if you want a chance at winning this week. Now, once you get on the greens, it's a little bit of a different experience for most PGA Tour golf courses, because these are paspalum grass greens. I have played one round of golf in my life on paspalum, so like, I'm no agronomy expert. I'm not like Mr. Agronomy, like, taking classes on agriculture and stuff like that. But I know enough to be dangerous. And I know that paspalum is generally a slower blade of grass. It generally has less break. So what it really does is it kind of lessens the importance of putting, because poorer putters who are less good at reading greens have more of a benefit because there's generally less to read. And with them being slower, you have more of a margin for error in your misses, where if you miss, the power by about, 7 feet on a fast green, and you're only going to miss by 2 or 3 feet on a slower green, right? Just because there's less, or there's more margin for error, right? So really this week, this is going to be a week where I'm really going to be focusing heavy on ball striking, but I'm going to be looking heavy at guys who have had success in this type of environment. One thing that is really interesting this week that we're hearing a lot of people talk about is the fact that there's, 3 tournaments worth of history here at this course. How people are reacting to that history has been totally different from what I expected. In 3 years of playing here, the 3 winners have been Jon Rahm, Tony Finau, and Jake Knapp. So in the 3 tournaments that have been played, 2 out of the 3 of them have been won by very clearly one of the top 2 most talented golfers in the field, in Rahm and Finau. They were both runner-up the year they did not win. And then the third one was won by Jake Knapp, who was kind of up and coming, one of the best drivers of the golf ball in the field. Not really a super shocking victory last year. Like, I believe he was around 60-1. So it wasn't like this, supreme long shot. But yet this week, you see all these people who are touting, hey, bet the long shots, bet the long shots, bet the long shots. Not really, because if you look at who's won, it's generally been the most talented golfers who have shown up and won here this week. What is kind of more difficult this week is that there is no Jon Rahm or Tony Finau headlining this field. This is probably the worst field that this event has seen. And so it is going to be a little bit tougher to parse through, hey, who is the most talented golfer in this field actually? But I think that it's another week where I'm going to be on, much like the 3 events so far that have been played here, I'm going to be on the most talented guys in the field. I also anticipate that this is going to become a course where the more and more we see it on the PGA Tour, course history gets very, very sticky. Like, you can look and see on Data Golf that we're looking at right now, if you're watching on YouTube, the guys that have played this event 3 times have all generally played pretty well here, right? Steven Yeager, 15th, 18th, 3rd. Patrick Rogers, 10th, 10th, 6th. Grayson Sigg, 33rd, 18th, 49th. Lonzo Griffin, 15th, 16th, 48th. Emiliano Grillo, 33rd, 5th, 33rd, right? The only other guys that have played this 3 times, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 golfers who have played this event 3 times and missed one of the 3 cuts. There's nobody who's played here 3 times and missed multiple cuts. Or actually, I take that back. Alex Smalley has missed 2 cuts, but he was T6 in his other appearance. So really, this is not an event, this is really an event where it seems like course history is going to be pretty repeatable week in and week out, especially talking about the guys like Rogers and Yeager who have had success here year after year after year. I think this is going to be one of those courses where course history is going to end up being fairly predictive. And when you look at guys who, maybe haven't played it here all 3 times, but you've got Jake Knapp, who is returning as defending champion. Akshay Bhatia was 4th when Tony Finau won. Sami Valmaki was runner-up last year. Kurt Kitayama was runner-up to Jon Rahm. Bo Hostler with a top 10. Chan Kim with a top 10. Carson Young with 2 top 15s. So, there's plenty of guys with bankable course history here that we can go back to and hope that they're going to continue their course history in terms of saying, hey, I think this is going to be a place where course history is pretty predictive year in, year out. All right, now let's go ahead and talk about our key stats before we go ahead and take a look at the data. So I think the strokes gained off the tee is something that we can look at this week. If you want to cater it a little bit more to driving distance or ball speed, I would do that. I really like looking at ball speed. Ball speed really tells you who is making really good contact with the golf ball with high velocity. And so really it kind of averages things out, whereas driving distance, what if a guy opted to take a 3-wood on the course that measures driving distance, or on the hole that measures driving distance, right? Ball speed's kind of a little bit more of an even playing field, especially when we've got a lot of guys this week who are playing from other tours like the Korn Ferry Tour or the DP World Tour. Strokes gained approach in general is going to be important, but it's going to be really important this week, especially from higher numbers like 175 plus. You're going to see a lot of long irons into green. We've got a lot of long par 4s this week with this being a long golf course. We've got a lot of par 5s that are gettable in 2. So guys who are good long iron players are going to be good looks this week, in my opinion. Birdie or better percentage, we always want to look at on easy golf courses, of which this is one. And then I want to look at putting, but only on paspalum. I really don't want to look at general putting numbers this week because it's just such a different surface, and guys who are poor putters tend to putt well on paspalum. So I really want to really isolate that paspalum grass type. And then I really want guys who have good course history or comp course history. In terms of the comp courses, There are the other tropical golf courses on the PGA Tour. El Cardenal, home of the Worldwide Technologies Championship, played in Cabo in Mexico. Corrales Golf Club played in the Dominican Republic, home of the Corrales Punta Cana Championship. Grand Reserve, home of the Puerto Rico Open. I think you can look at those three, but I really want to look at long golf courses this week, of which Torrey Pines is one of the best. You see a ton of crossover success at Torrey Pines. John Rahm and Tony Finau have had great success at that course in their career. Jake Knapp has been good at both those courses. So I really think you can look at Torrey Pines. And then TPC Craig Ranch is just another kind of long, easy course. There's a slight bit of crossover success there. But one thing I also want to look at was just looking at the courses that, the guys who have played well here have played well at. And I think I came up with a few more ancillary comps that you can use. Detroit Golf Club is one. Tony Finau has won there. He also won here at the Mexico Open, but it's another golf course that's very driver heavy off the tee, very easy, and not a short golf course. Same goes for Keene Trace, which is home of the ISCO Championship. And then I also think you could use Congaree, which was home of the CJ Cup one year and the Palmetto Championship one year as well. All right, but that does it for the key stats. That does it for everything that we're looking at. So let's go ahead and take a quick breather, and then we're going to dive down the rabbit hole. All right. Now, when I say dive down the rabbit hole, I'm referring to the rabbit hole, which is a tool from BetSperts Golf that allows you to use all different kinds of filters and conditions of data in order to really weed out the exact micro skills that you want to look for golfers for a particular week. It has been very helpful for me in making custom models and identifying some guys that I might not have gotten to if I didn't have the options to use the filters and the conditions that they have. All right. So here's the data that we looked at this week, and we threw all this into a custom model. We'll tell you about the model results at the end. I wanted to get just a general baseline of strokes gained total just to know who is playing well on the PGA Tour in the last year. It can kind of just weed out a general skill level for who's been the best golfers in this field in the last year. Top 10 in the field: Aaron Rai, Harry Hall, Ben Griffin, Patrick Fishburne, Mac Meisner, Jacob Bridgman, Akshay Bhatia, Sam Stevens, Justin Lauer, CT Pan as your top 10. And then I wanted to do the same thing, but just with approach, because I think that week in, week out, approach is one of the most predictive stats on the PGA Tour. Top 10, Joel Damon, Aaron Rai, Henrik Nordlander, Kurt Kitayama, Mac Meisner, Mateo Manacero, Jackson Suber, Adam Svensson, Patton Kizzire, and Michael Kim. Now, I wanted to also look at strokes gained off the tee because we said that'll be important this week, but I'm only looking at driver-heavy courses. Top 5 in the field in that: Rico Hoey, Alejandro Tosti, Kurt Kitayama, Kevin Yu, and Nicholas Norgard. And then I also wanted to look at ball speed because, like I said, I think that's a pretty good indicator of guys who can mash the ball really far. It's also a pretty good indicator of long iron skill as well. With this being kind of a different field, though, you ended up with some different names near the top. Top 10, Aldrich Potgieter, Jose Luis Ballesteros, Nicholas Norgard, Rasmus Højgaard, Will Gordon, Tom Vieding, Alejandro Tosti, Chris Gotterup, Nikolai Højgaard, and Vincent Norman. Holy crap, that was a hard list to read. Now, I also wanted to look at a strokes gained approach, but only on long golf courses. This will measure who's able to hit their long irons well into these, kind of long iron intensive tracks. Top 5, Andrew Putnam, Charlie Hoffman, Henrik Norlander, Lanto Griffin, and Alex Smalley. And then I wanted birdie or better, but on long golf courses. Basically, are you able to make birdies on these long tracks? Antoine Rosner, Harry Hall, Matty Schmid, Trey Mullinax, Jesper Svensson are your top 5. And then just putting on past Palom greens, who are the best in the field. There's a lot of guys who have not had a strokes gained tracker, or shot tracker, I should say, on past Palom. So this is a lot of guys in the field that didn't get stats counted for this one, but your top 10 is Ben Silverman, Aaron Baddeley, Davis Riley, Akshay Bhatia, notably poor putter Akshay Bhatia, 4th in the field on past Palom putting. Henrik Norlander 5th, Ben Griffin 6th, Patrick Rogers, K.H. Lee, Sammy Valimaki, and Emiliano Grillo rounding out your top 10. Now, I wanted to look at strokes gained total, but only at resort and tropical courses. Top 10 in that regard. We've got Ben Griffin, Alex Smalley, Patrick Rogers, Akshay Bhatia, Grayson Sigg, Emiliano Grillo, Eric Van Rooyen, Harry Hall, Justin Lauer, and Patrick Fishburne. I wanted to look at just Vidanta Vallarta itself, just this course. Top 5 in the field: Jake Knapp, Patrick Rogers, Akshay Bhatia, Steven Yeager, Kurt Kitayama. Now, I also threw all of my comp courses and ancillary comp courses into a blender and look for that one as well. Top 10 in that regard: Akshay Bhatia, Steven Yeager, Justin Lauer, Aaron Rai, Jake Knapp, Taylor Moore, Sam Stevens, Nate Lashley, Patrick Rogers, and Hayden Springer. All right. Now, throw all that into a custom model, and what you get, my number one golfer is Akshay Bhatia. That is not a big surprise to me. You guys know, if you've been following the podcast for a long time, I'm a big fan of Akshay. He's a lefty. He's from North Carolina. He checks those two boxes for me. It just seems like a really likable kid, really just fun to root for, fun on the golf course. So besides just liking to root for him, he's also got some serious talent. He has a win at TPC San Antonio, which was a Greg Norman design. This is also a Greg Norman design. He was fourth year of the year. Tony Finau won it. He almost won the Rocket Mortgage, which is another tournament that was won by Tony Finau. And then, you look at Torrey Pines last week, he was T9 and he wasn't particularly great around the green or putting. And I'm not really caring too much about those stats. I'm really just looking at the off the tee and approach numbers, which were outstanding at that tournament. So Akshay Bhatia checking a ton of boxes. It seems to me like he is very clearly the class of this field, and he is a guy that I'm going to be probably betting to win and certainly getting into my DFS lineups, even though he is going to be probably the highest priced golfer in the field. He is the highest priced golfer in the field, actually, on DFS. So Akshay Bhatia, definitely going to be one of my guys this week. Chan Kim was 2. Kind of surprised me a little bit, but when you look at Chan Kim's overall profile, he's a really good approach player, and he has been really good in his career at easy courses. So I really think that this is not a bad spot for Chan Kim, even though the recent form does leave a little bit to be desired. He's had some really good approach numbers in the calendar year 2025. So if he's able to continue that approach play, he's another guy that we can look at. I'm probably not going to be betting him outright, though. He's probably going to be a guy that I'm going to be looking at in terms of DFS lineups and kind of like a mid-range value play. Justin Lauer's another one that we've been on quite a few times. We hit the each way on him at the American Express. He was not good at Pebble Beach, but the approach numbers were still good. But he's a guy who's generally a really good putter of the golf ball. And when he does have his approach game going, which he does seem to have right now, it's a guy that you want to get on. He's not a great driver of the golf ball. He's not a particularly great around the green player, but he's a good putter. He's a good approach player, and he's been really good in his career on tropical island courses. And he's also been pretty good at this event. He was top 10 here last year. So I don't mind the Justin Lauer idea coming in as my third golfer. And then Kurt Kitayama came in 4th. So it's very clearly to me that Bhatia and Kitayama are the class of this field. Kitayama also has a runner up here at this event. Kitayama also a particularly great approach player and driver of the golf ball. So those two guys, I'm really going to be in DFS building around those two, seeing if I can fit both of them in the same lineup, because I think they're priced low enough that you can, but also playing lineups with each of them, because I really do think that they are the class of the field this week. And then I also think you've got guys that came in the next low tier of my model. This is a sign that I probably had a pretty good model, is the guys that are priced near the top in DraftKings are coming up near the top of the model. You've got Harry Hall, Patrick Rogers, Steven Yeager. All 3 guys are going to be big parts of my DFS lineups this week. Patrick, we already mentioned the history here with Patrick Rogers and Steven Yeager. They've been great players at this course. Harry Hall has been great in the swing season heading into this one, been great at tropical courses. He also won at one of my ancillary comps, which was Keene Trace, which was another long and easy golf course. So I do think that this is a pretty good spot for all 3 of those guys. Rounding out the top 10 of my model, we've got Alex Smalley, Aaron Rye, and Ben Griffin. Looking for some value plays that kind of popped in my model. Henrik Nordlander came in 12th. That one was a little bit of a puzzler, but he is a really good approach player recently, and he's a really good putter on past Palom. So, hey, maybe there's something there. The recent results haven't been anything that will knock your socks off, but he's been really good on approach. Yeah, he's missed 3 straight cuts, but he's still been pretty good on approach in all of them. That's kind of the incredible part. And he was really good in the swing season. So maybe there's something there. I don't know. He's not a guy that was particularly on my mind until this model popped him out. Nate Lashley is a guy that I like a bit, though. He is a really good putter on past Palom. He has played really well at coastal courses like Corrales in his career. He also has a win at the Rocket Mortgage, which is another one of those kind of ancillary comps. And if you look at how he's been playing, he withdrew from the Farmers Insurance Open. So I wish we had that data point to go off of. But his approach play has been really good in the calendar year 2025. So I really do think that Nate Lashley, pretty solid value play, in my opinion, here at this spot. And then Ben Martin came in at 14th. Again, that's another guy that Norlander was not really on my radar until I saw him pop up in the model. And even then, I don't think I'm going to be on him with the recent play. It just hasn't been all that great. But, if you look at the fall swing stuff, a lot of that was included. And he does really pop well on approach, particularly at long golf courses. So I don't know. Of those 3, I think that the most stickiest one is Nate Lashley to me. But anyway, that is going to do it for the model. If you would like to see the final top 10 of my model, because I'm going to tinker with this all week long. If you'd like to see the final top 10 of my model, you need to check out my Patreon, patreon.com/Mike'sMoneyPicks. I write a full article every single week profiling both of my DFS cores for DraftKings and FanDuel, as well as the top 10 in my model, and a full write-up as to why they're my core plays and how I'm attacking the week. If you'd like access to that, patreon.com/Mike'sMoneyPicks. Also, if you're looking for more from me, follow me on Twitter at Mike'sMoneyPicks. All the updates for the show are there. I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you might have if you reach out to me on Twitter, and join the Fantasy Corner Discord. The link is in the description on YouTube, as well as the audio feed that is 100% entirely free. All right, so now that we've looked at all the data, let's go ahead and take a look back at the board and see if we can identify some more guys and some ways to attack for DFS and betting. So as we were mentioning, it really does seem like DraftKings got the pricing right. Either that or I got my model right, because a lot of the guys near the top of the pricing were guys that were near the top of my model. So as I mentioned, I am going to be big on Bhatia and Kitayama this week, and I'm really going to be big on the trio of Yeager, Rogers, and Hall this week. And so really that leaves us at a point where it's like, hey, well, who near the top are you going to end up fading? You can't play them all in every single lineup, right? To me, Rasmus Højgaard is one of the easiest fades of the year for me. He's priced up here at $10,100. He was in the final pairing at the Waste Management Phoenix Open, played great at Pebble Beach as well. But y'all, he was dead last week at the Genesis. Why would I think that a guy who just shot 82.77 on one of the courses that I'm comping to this one would play well here at this course this week? And he hasn't played here before either. Whereas a lot of the other guys that we're looking at this week have bankable course history at this place. Yeah, I'm just baffled at why so many people are playing Rasmus this week. I'm going to be full fading him, and I hope I don't have any regrets in doing so. But I really like all the other guys near the top of the board, and I'm going to let everybody else chase Rasmus. Just what he did last week, I just can't do it, y'all. I just can't do it. Now, the other guy that I'm going to go give a shout out to at $9,000, even on DraftKings, is Taylor Moore. I think this is a really good spot for him. He's missed the one cut the one time that he's played here, but he has played very well at a lot of the comp courses, and he's coming in like excelling in a few different categories. He's generally a pretty good around the green player. He's generally a pretty good putter. He mashes the ball off the tee. His approach play can vary, but when his approach play is good, you get really good weeks, like when he was T7 at the American Express a few months ago, right? And then, you look at last year, we talk about how, you could comp this place to a lot of the places where Tony Finau has played well and won at, right? Well, he was T2 at the Houston Open last year, and he lost half a stroke per round on approach because he is that good at mashing it off the tee. He can really win himself a tournament with around the green and putting. And that's another course that, Tony Finau has excelled at in his career. Driver heavy, long iron intensive. I think that's a decent comp. And so to finish T2 there, I think that's a pretty good comp to this one. And so Taylor Moore is a guy that I am going to be on. There's enough data there that even though he does have the one missed cut, I'm kind of banking on him being pretty good here this week. Kevin Yu is another guy that I like this week. He was 17th at Torrey Pines last week after being 16th at the Waste Management 2 weeks ago. Look, he's just one of the better approach players in the field, and he does it on long golf courses pretty well. So I really do think that this is going to be a pretty good spot for him, and I'm going to be willing to go back to him. Like, his approach numbers have pretty much been all in the green since 2024 started, even though the other categories have not always been in the green. But I'm going to go back to him, and I think that this is a pretty good spot for him. He's also a terrible putter. And like we talked about the Paspalum greens, this is a place where you can kind of neutralize a poor putter if you are a poor putter. After that, looking lower on the board, no pun intended, you've got Justin Lauer right there at $8,500. I think a lot of people are going to opt to play Jake Knapp. I don't think that's a bad strategy. He was 17th at Torrey Pines last week, played very well, was a great value play if you played him. Defending champ, I think he's going to be quite popular. I'm going to be opting to play Justin Lauer as well, and maybe even both of them in the same lineup because I do think they're worth a look. Now, I got to be honest, I think the field drops in quality pretty significantly after Justin Lauer. So if I'm building DraftKings lineups, or if I'm like looking for like a top 20 type of bet, like I'm probably looking to parlay two of the guys that are Lauer and above. Or if I'm looking for a DraftKings lineup, I definitely want to get 3, maybe even 4 guys that are Lauer and above, depending on the type of construction that I'm going for, because I really do think that there's a fall off after that. One of the guys we have not mentioned, one of the best approach players in the field, is Andrew Putnam. He was 25th at the Waste Management a few weeks ago. He owns a 24th here at this event. He also missed another cut. I think he's worth a look. I also really like Carson Young this week. So Carson Young is a guy that I feel like you just fire up whenever he's on tropical courses. He played well in Puerto Rico, played well at Corrales, T8 and T15 in 2 tries here. The recent form is just but if you're buying into the fact that, he just plays well on this type of golf course, then I think he's a guy worth looking at $7,700. And then you've got the mystery box known as Michael Thorbjornsen at $7,700. This is a young guy still coming up from college. We don't really know what he is yet, but he absolutely mashes the ball off the tee. And if he's as talented as everybody says he is, then $7,700 is a bit of a misprice. We already talked about Chan Kim, and I am going to be on Ben Silverman at $7,400 as well. Ben Silverman does own a T13 here. So here's what I'm going to do from here. Like looking at these value plays, Aldrich Potgieter is another one like Michael Thorbjornsen, who is supremely talented. And if you're looking for like a mystery box type of play, he would be a guy that you could go with. I also think Antoine Rosner is coming over playing really well from the DP World Tour. He's another guy that I would be interested in. So aside from like those guys, let's see if anybody here played particularly well at Torrey Pines, because that was one of our comp courses, right? So let's see if we can find a few of those guys. We already talked about Patrick Rogers, Akshay Bhatia. Any value plays that played well at the Genesis? No. What about the other time it was at Torrey Pines 4 weeks ago? Sam Stevens, Chris Ventura, Hayden Springer, Will Gordon. So those are some value, Lanto Griffin. So those are some value plays you can maybe look at if you're just looking to make the Torrey Pines corollary, right? Now, if we look at event history here, are there guys here that are value plays that have particularly good history here? Well, Sammy Valimaki is $6,700. He was runner-up here last year. I'm going to be going back to Valimaki. He was also very good at Torrey Pines. He was 15th there earlier this year. Definitely going to be going with him as one of my value plays this week. Ben Silverman, we already talked about T13. Henrik Norlander, T13. Hey, that's a pretty good sign for the guy that popped up in my model. Aaron Baddeley, T24 last year. What about 2 years ago? Is there anybody we can look for? Emiliano Grillo, T5. Alejandro Tosti, T10. That might have a little bit of interest from me. Vincent Norman, T18. And then look at the very first edition of this event. Davis Riley, $6,300, fifth. That's interesting. David Lipsky, $6,500 was T6. Nate Lashley, my guy, T11 in the first time this event was played. So, that's just kind of how I would keep a short list on the value plays is, hey, have they played well at one of the comp courses? Do they have like any numbers that really stand out a whole lot, or have they played well here recently? So that's kind of where I'm at just in terms of those value plays. All right, let's go ahead and take a quick breather and let's talk one and done. So one thing I did forget to mention this week is, like I said, I am going to be kind of on the favorites in terms of my outright betting. But I think if you're betting top 10s and top 20s this week, I think this is the week to kind of play the long shots in that market because we've seen a lot of them do that in the 3 editions of this tournament. We've seen a lot of kind of unknown players do that, like a Cristobal del Solar, like a guy who plays really well in Latin America or somebody like that could absolutely smash and get you a top 20 or a top 10. But I think it's highly unlikely that a guy like that wins the tournament from what we've seen so far in the 3 editions of this tournament. Just want to kind of get that betting strategy out there. All right, now let's talk one and done. So last week, not a great week for me. I had Colin Morikawa and Will Zalatoris in the 2 one and dones I've been playing. I'm yet to hit a winner this year, but I feel like a lot of people haven't hit winners yet. So I feel like one and dones haven't really gotten super big off the ground just yet because, we've got a lot of winners that haven't been picked. And the key for one and dones is picking winners, especially in a week like this where it's not a super big purse, it's not a signature event, and it's not a great field. So really the only big advantage that you're going to get over the rest of the field in your one and done is if you happen to pick the winner or maybe like a T2 player. But this field is so bad that everybody's going to be picking near the top of the board because you don't really have a whole lot of fear of using anybody the rest of the year, right? Like my preliminary pick was Steven Yeager. I still feel pretty good about running that if I'm being honest. But even if I were to pick Akshay, if we're looking at Akshay this week, Akshay won at TBC San Antonio last year. Akshay also was great at the Houston Open. He was also almost won at the Rocket Mortgage. So there's a few courses that I could see making an argument for Akshay, but he is the absolute favorite here in this event. There's not a whole lot of other guys that you're going to be looking to, use down the road. So I think this is a week where you can be super aggressive and you can pick somebody near the top of the board, right? So we already mentioned the Akshay. I think he's a really solid pick. We already mentioned how I'm fading Rasmus this week. I think Kurt Kitayama will be a really solid pick. Patrick Rogers to me makes a lot of sense as well, man. Coming off of that finish at Torrey Pines last week, 3 top 10s here. He's also been great at another Greg Norman design at TBC San Antonio. I tell you what, man, here's what I think I'm going to do. I think in my 2 one and dones, I think one of them I might stick with Steven Yeager, my original selection. I might change my mind and go with Akshay, but I really like the idea of going with Patrick Rogers in one and done this week. I really think he's going to end up being my guy this week. Also, if you want access to this spreadsheet, the link is in the description. Make sure you make a copy. That way you can edit it and make it your own. But yeah, I think that Patrick Rogers is going to be my guy for one of the one and dones this week. I might go Akshay because y'all know I love me some Akshay, but I really think Patrick Rogers makes a lot of sense this week. All right, but that's going to do it for this week, y'all. And hey, what do you know? We stuck to the time limit. So hopefully we got all the information that you need to know about the Mexico Open 2025 in 30 minutes or less. Hopefully we helped you guys pick some winners this week, whether you're playing DFS, betting, one and done, round by round, showdown DFS, whatever. Hopefully we gave you guys plenty of help on that. And if this video helped you out in any way, please hit the like button and please subscribe to the channel. That way you can come back to us. Y'all, I cannot stress enough how much it does help me when you guys like and subscribe. Like, it just helps the audience grow, helps the community grow. And I very much do appreciate it when you guys do that. We're closing in on 900 subscribers, which means the next milestone will be 1,000, but we can't get to 1,000 if we don't get the 900 first. So make sure you hit that subscribe button if you have not already. But anyway, that's going to do it for this episode, y'all. So like I said, hopefully we helped you guys pick some winners this week. Best of luck to you guys this week at the Mexico Open. We will be back next week talking about formerly the Honda Classic, now the Cognizant Classic, which is a nice little event that should have a pretty good field this year. So we'll be back next week talking about that. If you're subscribed to the channel, you'll know when that episode drops. But anyway, best of luck to you guys this week at the Mexico Open. Thank you guys for watching and listening, and I will see you next time.